go to places that have actually had reports of spiritual activity, and it's being in that kind of environment that then brings out the spirituality of you. Now, you don't have to be a spiritualist or believe or anything for things to happen. I've seen things happen. I've seen people run out of the room because something on the wall started to swing on its own.
Cool. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
Thanks for bringing the foxes.
Well, you always got to have a coffee. You got to have your biscuit with a coffee.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're not crunching too much throughout. So, can you explain the hat?
It's just I like to be unusual. I like to be different, and I always wear a hat of some description. And this has just effectively become my lucky hat. Yeah. So I wear it to fairs. I wear it to events like that. Don't wear it when obviously I'm working as a celebrant, but that's something completely different. But,
so this is it's just for selling things.
This is my selling hat and my fun.
Why not? Bring something different.
Exactly.
Sort of brings a carnival vibe, I feel, to Go East.
Yeah.
Which I feel like it is. It's sort of a mix of strange, weird people from all over the place, and I feel like everyone's kind of got their different thing as well.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, it's one of about 20 that I've got hanging up. So generally I wear this, but it depends on the event. Sometimes I've got a pit helmet. Sometimes I've got a French policeman's hat. Other times whatever it grabs me.
Yeah. Where did you get it from?
Karen got it for me. My wife got it for me.
Right.
She got it from a little shop, I believe, down in Brighton somewhere.
She gets you all the fun things.
She does
the sacks and
yeah. She looks after me. She looks after me.
I did a stand-up comedy course 2 years ago. Something I always wanted to try. And Neela, she turned around for my birthday and she was like, "I want to get you this, but I don't know if you want to do it." So I haven't got it yet. Because it was a 6-week course. So you did like 2 hours every week and you'd sort of learn a little bit about stand-up comedy. Right. But the thing was, at the end of the course, you needed to do a full 5-minute set in front of a live audience. And what they say about like stand-up courses is it's the nicest stand-up you'll ever do. Because what you do is anyone can come to that showcase, but it tends to be a bunch of family and friends. And it was loads of people as well. Because as soon as you start going out and doing stand-up, you're doing it for like 5 people who all hate themselves. And you get no laughs, even if your stuff is good. So it's really hard to tell. But this one is like 75. It ended up being like one of the biggest ones they'd ever done. 75 like friends and family. And I was like, because I'd been wanting to do it for a while. And sort of like taking that chance, and it's the one thing that always terrifies everyone. Trying stand up.
It's something that appeals, but I don't think I could ever do it. Not that I've got a weird sense of humour, but what I find funny, some people might go, "Oh, that's not really all that funny," But then on the other hand, other people will laugh their socks off about something, and I'll go, "Don't get that."
Yeah. And that's part of the problem, is you just need to go out. It's like the only thing, like I find even acting, you can kind of tell before you go on stage, if you've been rehearsing for a couple of months, whether or not it's any good. Stand-up comedy, you can't do it to anyone.
No.
And like I would sort of prepare jokes that I was going to do, and I would do them for Neela just here. I bought a little microphone, and I would just like, because you need to learn like mic technique as well. And I do my jokes, and like some of them she found funny, others she didn't. Yeah. And you're like, okay, well, you can't really do it. You need to like go out and risk it and just go, some of these jokes aren't going to land. You're just going to be there to nobody laughing.
That's right. That's
and
it.
Just roll with the punches and do the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very old school. I mean, I'm like, Billy Connolly, Eddie Izzard in his
We've got the Billy Connolly box set over there.
There we are. I mean, it's those kind of comedians that I like. But these days, they're leaning more towards, I mean, like, for example, Jimmy Carr, I don't get him at all.
It's just a different type of thing.
And it's just a different, I mean, I've seen his stand-up things where where they send messages to him, or they'll send him a text.
Oh, and he has to like make a joke on the spot.
And he has to make a joke on the spot about it. And it's like, you read some of these texts and you're wondering whether, are they actually planted or what, because he comes back almost straight away. And maybe it's because he's a really good comedian. But on the other hand, some of the things he does say, I'm thinking, that's a little bit near the mark. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I mean, it's the thing with like improv comedians where they go and rehearse endlessly.
Yeah.
Like, they're really good at it. You've got like the Comedy Store players in London, and they're really good at just bouncing off of whatever the audience does for them. Yeah. Because they just practice that all the time. Like, it's a skill that you can learn.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is great, because I think, I know some people will push and they'll maybe say things, go on then, see what you can do with this sort of thing.
That's the challenge of it.
That's the challenge of it. Yeah, I get that. But yeah, no, I prefer, you know, there are other comedians out there that take everyday things and you know, they'll turn it into a comedy skit, and that's funny.
Well, that was what Billy Connolly was so good at. I was watching an interview with him, and he said that what he used to do was just go on stage and talk. And comedians don't really do that anymore. Where they can, like, they're just funny people, and they can just talk for like 2 hours.
Yeah,
and I think it was Billy Connolly, where he did like a 3 or a 4 hour set one night because people just stayed because he's just a legend, and so they just wanted to sit through the whole thing. Yeah. And some guy came up to him after the show and was like, "I bet you can't do an entirely different set tomorrow," because he was doing another night at the same venue. And he came back and he just did entirely new stuff that he just literally made up on the spot, and it was brilliant. Yeah. But you don't really get comedians like that anymore. It's all like very prepared and routine.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've seen Billy twice, and both times it was a 2 hour show that lasted 3. In both cases, well, in one case he just carried on, and the second time he actually did leave the stage, and everybody just refused to leave. It was like the lights came up and everyone's like stamping and clapping and chanting for him, and he came back and did another 45 minutes.
Yeah, you don't really get people like that anymore.
And no, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are in it, dare I say it, they might be in it for the money. So it's like, right, no, you've paid me to do a 2 hour show. I've done a 2 hour show. I'm off now. And that's the end of it. And those, I think there's a lot of people coming through doing comedy, and they're great, but they don't do it because we like them. I mean, they're not doing it for us; they're doing it for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about it is it's so subjective. You know, you get people who like, and I'm not going to say names, but there's people who I don't like their comedy, but they sell out their shows, and they're really big comedians because it's just some people will like that, which is great, and that's fine. But it is one of the biggest challenges when you start out is like, am I funny, or am I funny or not, or do I have the wrong audience?
Yeah,
and you need to learn like the difference between when a joke doesn't get a laugh. Don't do that joke anymore.
No, that's right.
Try it again, or like try something different. And you get different people, different demographics, different ages, different ethnicities, different countries. Yeah. And you need to figure out what works in front of people. And it's like, if you're willing to like go and try that, I was sort of you were talking about the sax earlier, and I was kind of the same. It's like I did this course, did one show afterwards, and then it was Christmas. And so I took a couple of weeks off. And the thing about comedy is I think you just need to keep doing it. Yeah. And you can just, there's free nights all over London, and I wouldn't recommend you go to them because they're dreadful. Like, it's always better to, if you're like, I want to go out and I want to do something tonight, but I don't have any money to spend. There's so many comedy nights you can go to that are free. And I've been to a lot of them, and I'm like, actually, I'll just pay the tenner. Because you're just guaranteed, like, you're going to see people who you've never seen before, who you don't know who they are, but they're like relatively good at what they do, which is why you're paying to see it. Yeah. Versus free nights, and it's just people trying stuff out, and there's I always say there's like 3 different types of comedians at open mic nights. And there's like people who are really good, and you can tell they're like getting, like they might be really good if they continue. You get people who don't care, and they just talk about whatever they did today and hope that it's funny. And then you get just insane people who are like not mentally well, who just speak, and you listen to them and you're like, are you like, is this a bit, or are you genuinely this person? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the last one I went to, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. There was a guy who got up, and he was doing a night with some friends of mine who had done the course, which is why I was at this thing. And they were all right. They sort of like, they'd sort of learnt a couple of like tricks of the trade. There's a big thing about like the way you grab the microphone when you get up. Like, don't faff with the cable, and don't show people that the whole thing is showing confidence when you get on stage. Right. So you need to sort of like control the room, because otherwise you get hecklers, and you don't really get them at like an early stage, but you will get people who are just kind of like trying to tear you apart. Yeah. Yeah. And this guy got up, and he was talking about how it was like February 16th or something. So he was talking about Valentine's Day and how he didn't have a partner, and how he decided to shave off all of his pubes and microwave them, so we could see the sparks lighting the hairs on fire. Right. And there wasn't a punch line to the joke. So you're like, oh, and you sort of got the impression from the demeanor of this man, you're like, I think you actually did this, and you're just telling us about it. And so everyone was just really uncomfortable the whole time. That's it. Yeah. He sort of goes down, and you kind of like clap when they go off, but everyone's kind of like looking at each other, and there's only 20 people in the audience as well, and you're like, yeah, that's kind of what you get.
And like, you're right, and it's jokes like that. You're going, and
and it sort of trails.
No end there. It's
and they sort of like, there's silence, and then they start talking about something else, and you're like,
okay,
yeah,
Right.
this isn't someone I'd usually interact with in daily life, but I
Yeah.
just heard you talk for longer than you were supposed to.
About nothing.
That's
Yeah.
the rough thing about the open mics.
That's it.
Yeah, we should get on to topic.
Okay, that might be an idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you still a practicing spiritual healer?
No,
Okay.
I'm not. I don't practice it anymore.
Okay.
I
Why?
haven't done for a while.
Mm.
It was something that was part of a previous life.
Iteration.
Yeah.
Mm.
Before I then went on to what I do now,
Mm.
or what I did next,
Mm.
which is what I do now.
Mm.
So at the time, I was the co-owner of a paranormal investigation company.
Please explain what that is.
Okay, so in simple terms, it's a ghost hunt.
Mm.
But it's more than just sitting in a building waiting for someone to come out and go boo.
Mm.
It's working with mediums. It's working with people who can, read tarot and things like that. And we go to places that have actually had reports of spiritual activity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's being in that kind of environment that then brings out the spirituality of you.
Mm.
Now, you don't have to be a spiritualist or believe or anything for things to happen.
Mm.
I've seen things happen that, I've seen people run out of the room because something on the wall started to swing on its own, and things like that. Now, I didn't know I was a spiritual healer.
Mm-hmm.
I was told I was a spiritual healer.
How were you told?
I went to, I actually met with a lady who could read auras.
Mm.
That was basically what she did.
Mm.
But she used coloured ribbons to be able to sense how people were, whether they were spiritual or not. A bit like going to a tarot reader or something like that.
Yeah, because I've done tarot and I've done like palm readings.
Right.
But what did she do with the ribbons?
It was basically, it's a bit like tarot reading, but she has a big basket full of coloured ribbons, and you just pull out half a dozen that are calling to you, as she puts it, but that you wanted to pull out.
Right.
And then she would effectively read the ribbons. So she would then, based on the colour combinations, she could tell you a bit about yourself. And it so happened that the colours I pulled out, she said, "Have you ever done any healing before?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is. Tell me about it." So from that point, it was, okay, you've explained how it works. Didn't know I could do that. But then you think back, I then thought back to occasions, and it made sense what she was saying. I'm one of these people that can calm people down. And I didn't know I was doing it. But then having spoken to her, having spoken to the lady I was doing the paranormal with, we kind of chatted it all through and developed it a little bit further. So I don't practice it anymore because that part of my life ended when we wound the company up. We didn't do it anymore. I then became a lorry driver, and there's not a lot of spiritual healing required for lorry driving. So it's kind of, and I did that for 12 years. So it's kind of, I did it on occasion, but only when I was with a friend who might have needed it, or, it's not something I then actively went out and said, "Hey, I'm a spiritual healer, come and see me, I'll fix you," because that's not how it works.
Yeah. So how did that fit into the timeline with the ghost hunt, the sort of paranormal experiences? Was that you were doing that before, and then you spoke to this woman, or
I met with her before I started doing the ghost hunting type of things, but I've always believed in that sort of thing.
Because I'm just wondering, like, what I think it's quite popular. People go to, like, I'm from Arizona, and there's like a really weird thing about people in Arizona as opposed to any other place. There's this weird sort of connection between Christianity, but also people believe in tarot and things. And I was always taught growing up, because I went to a religious school, that those things were quite contradictory, and messing about with that was sort of devil's stuff. But you do get people who they go to church every Sunday, but they also have a crystal. And when they go to, I went to, I guess a spiritual shop is what I'll call it, where you go get like joss sticks and crystals and things like that.
Yeah.
And I was getting a gift for my mum, I think for her birthday or Christmas or something. And there was a bunch of big round tables there. There was probably about 7 different tarot card readers. And I was like, oh, you know what? Like, I'll get one. And they were like, oh, actually, you can't right now. And I was like, but there's like loads of people there. And they were like, well, look at them. And they were all on the phone. I didn't realize that like business people in the city on their lunch break would have a scheduled call with these people. So you could usually come in and like have an appointment, but you'd have to book it because they're so popular that people are ringing these people up all the time. So there is a big sphere for this.
Yeah.
I don't think most people go in. Like, what was the interest in going in the first place? Did you have any connection to it before? What was the pull?
Yeah, I've always had. I was born. I was christened. You know, we weren't active churchgoers, but you know, like you do, you know, when you're born back in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. So I was christened because you just do that. When I got married the first time, I've been married twice. So my first wedding was in a church, you know, and top hat and tails, long white dress.
Great.
You know, because that's what was done. But I've never had the pull to go to church. I've never had the thoughts that, you know, I need to go and pray and I need, you know, all of that. But I do have my own thoughts about it. And then at around 11, I was away with the school, 11, 12, I was away with the school. And we went down the beach and we had like a barbecue on the beach and we were going to sleep out under the stars. It's part of a, you know, school trip, one night out. So we had the fire going and everything else. And a mate of mine, he decided it was going to be a great idea to grab a piece out of the fire and chase us all with this bit of, it's like, yeah, right, idiot.
That's all I did when I was a kid. It's just
it's what you did. Yeah, that's it. I mean, like I say, I mean, that was 40 odd years ago. So nowadays he'd be sued sideways. But anyway, that was what we were doing. And we were like, you know, sword fighting with bits of stick and everything. So anyway, we finished doing that and going back to where we were in the sand dunes, we went up. And as I went up a sand dune, I could see the sea. And clear as day, as I'm looking at you now, there was an old man sitting on the beach with a dog next to him, staring out to sea. He was probably 15 feet away from me, silhouetted against the sky. And back then, you didn't have to worry about strangers particularly. You know, it wasn't one of these, oh, shit, I've got to run away. So, you know, it was like, oh, he's obviously looking at something. So I sat on and I'm looking, couldn't see exactly what he was looking at, looked across, gone. Now, no one believed me, but I can tell you, hand on heart, that happened. And it was from that point that something in my head went, what was that? There's something going on. Now, I didn't actively then go and get books from the library and read up on ghosts and everything else, but I always had this idea that there was something going on other than, you know, the ghost in the white sheet type of thing. There obviously was something happening. And that's kind of just brewed within me. And I've always had that inkling. Now, I did a couple of ghost hunts with Karen. So go forward about 30 years. And things have happened at those ghost hunts. I've done what's called table tipping, where you put your hands on the table and you call out. It's a little bit like tarot, a little bit like Ouija.
Okay.
But instead of a planchette moving and spelling words out, you actually ask questions and it'll tip one way for yes and the other way for no. Same as using a crystal.
Right.
So I've done things like that. I've seen other ghosts since then, seen figures. I've had things happen to me. So I do believe in all of this. Now, I'm sure there are people out there going, yeah, what's he on? He's obviously smoked something before.
Yeah.
But all I would say to people is that you need to just turn off this and open this and just accept that there's a possibility.
That's where I'm at. I know I've known quite a few people through my life that have experienced these things. I've never experienced anything myself. People from my family have stories about, quite similar to what you said, sort of having seen relatives that are no longer with them. You know, like a grandpa sat in a chair who had died 10 years prior in the chair that he always sat in when he was alive. Or my my girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend, when I was a kid, she was a witch, and her mum was a witch, and so they had crystals and things, and her mum was part of a coven, which was, it sort of freaked me out when I first heard that, but it was basically just a nice group of women that got together and did things like house magic and things, sort of like cleaning up the space. And there was my ex-girlfriend apparently had some sort of connection. It was almost, it made me think of like, have you ever seen the show Avatar, the anime kids show?
Oh, yeah.
Sort of like that, where like she was born with almost special powers, more so than the average witch. And her thing was, whenever she passed by or went through a cemetery, she would be able to hear the voices of the people in the cemetery. And I never got that. I'd been with her in New York, and we went to many a cemetery, and I never had any experiences like that. So I think there's something to be said for people who have a connection more than other people. Do you have any idea why you've got this as opposed, like, is it a genetic thing? Have you thought about that?
No. I mean, my parents are like, yeah, right, okay. My dad won't, he accepts that I believe, but he's very much, well, okay, you believe, I'll leave that there. A couple of things have happened to my mum. I mean, not specifically, I don't know specifics, but she'll sort of say, oh, well, that might explain why that happened. I mean, I'm not like, I see dead people, Sixth Sense type of setup. The way it works with me is that I get a feeling. And it's got to be in the right situation. It's got to be in the right environment. That there's someone looking after you. It might be, I mean, I'm not saying that now because I can't feel anything at the moment, but, it could be that, I could be talking to someone. It's all about letting in the white light, taking out the dark. That's like the healing side of things. And it's all, you've got to be in the right environment. You've got to be in the right frame of mind, if you like. And like I say, it won't be that I can see someone sitting there and I can tell you exactly what they look like. That, for me, I'm not that well developed. Other people could. For me, it's more like you certainly have someone looking after you.
There's the old guardian angel idea.
Yeah, whether it's a relative or whether it's a completely different entity, if you like.
Well, it makes me think of there's all sorts of different abilities that humans either have or used to have, and they talk about like telepathy, right? Some people apparently have that. There's a famous series, can't remember what it's called, but it was like autistic kids apparently have. It's in the way that like you maybe go blind from some horrible accident, but then your hearing gets better. And they say apparently autistic kids, because a lot of them have lost the ability to speak, potentially have another way of communicating with certain things. And it was called the Telepathy Tapes. There's a famous series where they documented loads of kids sort of coming in and sort of examining them and asking them questions. And they might have said things that other kids had said before and sort of connected to them in ways, or saw something or heard something in a way that they couldn't have possibly known. And there was a recent study that was done that was all about the idea of people staring at you, right? People go, oh, I feel like someone's staring at me, and you turn around and they are. And in this study, they documented loads of people, and they would essentially stare at them or not stare at them and ask them, do you think you're being stared at? Or like, just let us know when you think you're being stared at, sort of thing. And I think the results came out, people got it correct 55% of the time, which doesn't sound great, but it should have been 50. So that 5% is actually quite significant, because it means that some people might actually genuinely know when there's something there, which sounds similar to what you're talking about. You sort of get a sensation or a vibe or a feeling when there's something there.
It's a bit like deja vu. I mean, everybody accepts deja vu. They sort of say, oh, been here before. Or something like this has happened before. Well, what is that? But they won't accept, the fact that there could be somebody standing beside them or someone staring at them. But everyday people will accept deja vu. And it's a similar kind of thing. It's, I've been here before. Yeah, maybe you have. Maybe you have, in a previous life, maybe, whatever it might be. I'm not saying that, but you know what I mean? There's too many things, you can find something that you lost without looking for it, or suddenly you'll be going, it's in the freezer. You don't remember putting it in the freezer. You know, so many people, you know, I've lost my car keys or something, and they turn up in the most unusual places, but I haven't been in that cupboard for ages.
Yeah.
Well, how did it get there then?
Or the mum's sixth sense, where you go, where have I put my keys? And they always know where they are.
They always know where they are. Yeah, exactly. There's, you know, there. I believe there is something there, whether it's ghosts running around looking after us, whatever it might be. You know, you have to. Everybody has to interpret it themselves. And as I said before, there'll be people out there going, "He's talking rubbish," and there'll be other people out there going, "Totally understand what you're saying, but I think this." Everybody's got their own interpretation on it, and everybody looks at it in their own way.
So how did you then get into the paranormal activity experience? What did you call it exactly?
It's paranormal experience, paranormal investigation.
How did that come about?
A friend of mine introduced me to a lady who was a medium, practicing medium. We met and chatted and talked, and she said that she'd always wanted to do her own ghost hunts. So we just chatted about it and decided, well, let's give it a go then.
You're never scared?
I'm not scared. No, I'm never scared. It's not something that scares me. Or no, it doesn't scare me in the slightest. You know, I mean, it's sitting in a dark room, hearing footsteps.
Well, I just always think of what was it? I think it was called Ghost Hunters, was the TV show when I was a kid. And it was like whenever I travelled, that was always the thing that was on. I used to travel around the US with my dad. He'd take me on business trips, and so we'd get to go see like a different part of the country, and then he would have 1-2 hour meeting where I'd sit outside and play my Game Boy or whatever.
Right.
But I remember being in the hotel, and either like the night before going to bed or waking up in the morning, maybe he was away having breakfast or at a meeting or something, I'd just flip on the hotel TV, and that was always the thing to watch, was Ghost Hunters. I never watched it at home. It was just when I was out traveling. Yeah. And the whole point is to like obviously suck you in, so they make it as scary as possible. And I imagine probably a lot of it is faked as well. But it just sort of, when I think of like those paranormal experiences, and like, you know, they hold the ghost microphone or whatever it's called up to the vent, and you can hear like a voice through it or whatever. It just always scares me. Yeah.
I mean, we had the UK version of Most Haunted. The same, but it sounds like the same thing. They would go to a place and it would be pitch black, and everybody would be like, "Oh my god!" It's
like a
it's
CGI
running away
shadow on the camera.
It could be, or whatever it could be, and that's the thing about the whole ghost thing. I mean, a film on the TV, you know, a Hollywood movie, the ghost comes up and he comes out of a vent and scares the living daylights out of you, or whatever it might be. You know, it doesn't happen. That's not how it happens. Yes, there are evil, if you want to call them evil, or malevolent spirits knocking around, but they're not gonna, you know, punch you in the face or kill you or anything like that. They're there, and they're there. They might want to scare you, but they're only going to go, and it's up to you to go, or if you're that way inclined, yes, you'll turn and walk away, run away, whatever you want to do. But that's the way I look at it, is that these spirits are there, but they're there for a reason. It's either that they're stuck there, they want to stay there. Okay. You know, you knock yourself out. You know, you're living in this house. I've just come to say hello. I'm not here to get rid of you.
Well, I mean, they can possess you as well. And this is part of what you talked about. You didn't have a malevolent experience necessarily, but it wasn't necessarily a nice experience either.
It wasn't it was an unusual experience.
Can you explain for people who don't know what we're talking about?
Okay, it wasn't like a full, you know, head spinning.
Yeah. The Exorcist
type possession. But if you're not properly protected, there are protection spirits out there. There are spirits out there that you call in when you do a ghost hunt or an investigation, and they're there to protect you. They're your guardians. And on this one occasion, I didn't get protected as closely as I should have done. And it wasn't a bad experience. It's not like I started punching people and hitting people and all of that because this spirit wanted me to do it. But it's a really weird sensation in that you know exactly what you're doing. You can see everything
Yeah, you've not
as
black-
it
It's
is.
not like you've blacked
It's not
out.
like
and
you've
come
blacked
to
out.
and you're like, what was I
What
doing?
I'm doing?
Yeah.
No, you know exactly. You can see the room as it is now. It's not like you've gone back in time to the time of the spirit and all of this. But the spirit, but you're doing things, and it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I shouting at people? You know, and this was at an ex-military base, and it was the sergeant major who was looking after the new recruits, and it was nighttime, and all these people were walking around where they would have been billeted
As part of this was part of
as
your
part of the
experience.
and so the spirit didn't like it. It's like, well, what are you doing up? It's like 11 o'clock at night. You should be asleep. And I didn't protect myself properly, and through me, he was telling everyone to go to bed. Lasted maybe 30 seconds until my colleagues, part of the company, realised what was happening and what I was doing, and then managed to pull him away.
Yeah. I sort of wonder how long that might have gone on if they hadn't been there.
That all depends on the strength of the spirit, I guess. You know, I mean, if they hadn't been there, I'm sure I could have done it myself, because at some point, like I say, you're still conscious about what you're doing. So you still know what's happening to you. So it's a case of like trying to pull yourself away.
Yeah.
And then telling him to leave, if you like. That's really the what would happen. Yeah, it would take a little while probably, because I was fairly inexperienced at the time. But you know, like I say, I don't want people thinking I can't go anywhere near ghost hunts anymore, because they are an experience. And I would, if there's people out there that don't believe, that's the best way to actually make a final decision, if you like. Go to a reputable place. You know, there are plenty of places around, certainly around Kent where I'm from, but there's certainly places all around the country that will have an advertised, well-documented investigation at that place. So go and find one of those and see for yourself. Just decide for yourself.
Yeah. Did you meet, when you were doing this, did you meet other people who were doing similar things? Because I imagine it's what they say about mediums. There's since the beginning of time, there's real mediums and there's people who fake it for money.
Yeah.
I imagine there's quite a lot of people who, you go to some hotel as part of an experience and they've got someone who comes and like bangs on the wall who you didn't know was there, who's an extra person, and it must be quite difficult to pick that apart between what's real and what's not.
Yeah, I mean, and I was lucky because I was introduced to someone who became our lead medium for the company that we ran for a couple of years, and he told me things that I didn't know about my grandfather, things I did know about my grandfather, and things I didn't know about him, which when I went home and phoned my mum and said, I've been told that Bub did this, that. Sorry, Bub was it's a nickname for my grandfather. Was this, that, and the other? And there was this silence on the end of the phone, and she said, how do you know that? It's not a secret. It's not like something terrible, but it's just something I've never told you.
Something you shouldn't have known. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I couldn't have known. How did you know that? So for me, when that happens, you then can turn to this person and say, okay, you're about 80% there with my trust. I wouldn't 100% trust any medium. Yeah. Even though I believe, I still wouldn't believe, I wouldn't trust 100%. But he certainly was in the 90s by the time we finished working together.
Do you think if people were to try this, that there would be people who'd be unable to succeed in having anything come along because only certain people... Do you think like everyone's got some sort of sense where they might be able to do this, or it's very specific?
I don't think it's specific per se, but it's like everything. This is going to sound terrible, but
some people can play basketball and other people can't.
Yeah, well, everyone can play basketball.
Well, some people can.
But some people can score baskets, and other people haven't a chance, like me. I can throw a ball at a hoop, but it'll go over the top or to the left or the right. Or,
I think I'm the same.
So it's going to be one of these things that the more open you are to it, potentially the more you will get from it. But if you're too open to it, you'll have people like, oh my God, that biscuit just moved. No, it didn't. I did. I just saw that. And yeah, of course, it's gravity. That crumb just fell off there. And you think, oh, it was a ghost did that. No, that's gravity. It's all a matter of interpretation. It's like if the plate lifted into the air and came back down again, we'll have a conversation.
Yeah.
But, but I don't think it's not like everybody going there will have an experience like that. I mean, like I say, I've done tabletop. I've done other things where I've been there and nothing's happened to me, but something's happened to other people. So really... it's all just, you've got to open your mind to it, but equally you've got to keep a bit of a sense of that breeze. Was it a ghost going past my face, or have you left the window open? You've got to really interpret what's actually happening.
Yeah, then there's that thing as well where like you don't know, there's going to be a mix of whether the experiences were actually supernatural, where they say like full skeptics of, for example, demonic possession. They say it pairs quite well with schizophrenia, right? Where people can do certain things that physically seemed quite strange, or maybe they spoke in different voices, or this idea of tongues, and maybe they were just babbling. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who have had schizophrenic episodes which could have seemed quite demonic, but then there's potentially people who have actually been, for example, possessed by something, and that's quite a different thing, although they might seem quite similar.
Yeah, there could be. I mean, my only experience is what you see on Hollywood films, so I've never been, I've got no experience of that. So, but yeah, I would guess that's probably, if you are schizophrenic, my understanding of schizophrenia is that there's two people inside your head. So you could then start talking strangely, and people could go, oh, they're possessed, when in fact it's not. It's a medical condition. So
yeah, I think
you really have to look at it.
Yeah, the idea of like going to one of these ghost hunts, if you can, or paranormal experiences, if it's something that you're interested in doing, might be a really good way of doing it. Because we were speaking about this before. I spoke with Neela about it, and I was like, well, if there's really something there, it's almost I think it's one of the most interesting things you could choose to do with your life is like try to figure out what's going on. And there's people like Aleister Crowley, and there's other people that have really, really gone into the deep end, and to this day we'll never really know, was Aleister Crowley genuinely finding something, or was he mad, and was he just a cult leader? We'll never be able to find that out. But there's other people who are doing that now. There's all sorts of like occult societies in London where you can go and you can join and potentially find this stuff out. But I think if you really want to find it out, if you're interested in horror films, for example, you can either really choose to spend your life doing that and really prove to yourself what's real and what's not, and then you can go down the route of like, what exactly is it? Is it Christianity? Is it Islam? Is it something in between? People talk about like psychedelic experiences, and like, is that just something kind of messing with the chemicals of your brain, or are you genuinely seeing past a certain stage of reality?
Yeah.
And there's something else there. Is there a sort of multiverse type thing going on where there's like higher levels and lower levels of being on different planes, because we live on one plane of reality. We live in, the third dimension, I guess, between time and space, and how we perceive reality is just one way of perceiving reality. And maybe there's other things that we know there's things we can't see, right? We can't see infrared light, for example. So we know there's ions and things going through the earth that if you could see everything, you'd go mad.
Quite possibly, yeah. I mean, who knows what's being...
Have you ever seen The Invisible Man, the really old film?
Yeah.
Where he's, for people who haven't seen it, he like sees through people's clothes at the start, and then he becomes sort of a psychic medium where people approach him and he can tell them certain things, and then by the end of the film, he goes absolutely insane and he ends up in a church because what he's able to see through goes further and further and further until he can't see what's around him. He can only see into like the depths of space past the planet and everything like that. So I don't know. There must be something to be said for like how deep you want to go into it. I think that might be a good idea, is going on a sort of a safe experience where there's people who can protect
you and look after you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's way deep, and I'm like right at the very top myself. I mean, I as much as these things have happened, as I say, I don't practice it anymore. Not consciously, I still meditate now and again, but that's a personal thing for me. If I'm feeling a little bit stressed out, just go chill out. Other people will listen to music, other people will read a book. For me, it's meditation. Find somewhere quiet, outdoors, sit under a tree, just zone out for a little while and just reassess everything. And that's what I do. Other people do different things. But yeah, I mean, it just goes back to being told that I have this ability just to calm people, and generally speaking, people say, you know, that they look into my eyes and we talk, it just calms people down, and that was described to me as being a spiritual healer. So,
how did you learn how to do that? Was that part of what you did with the?
I didn't learn. I just it happened. It just, you know, it wasn't a conscious thing. I went to, you know, I wasn't shown how to do it. It's just, it happens.
So, okay. Can you explain for people exactly what you practically do? Like, because you talked about the white light and the dark light, but
Yeah.
what that means when you're interacting with someone who needs that.
Okay. So my interpretation, the way I deal with it is dark light is the bad stuff. Okay. Now,
and what could that? What is the bad stuff? What could it be? What has it been?
It's generally speaking, for me, it's emotional. I'm not like, you know, one of these American faith healers who'll touch your forehead and say you're healed and now you can get up and walk. You know, I won't fix bones and I can't get rid of limps and cure cancer
I think
and all
you
of
described
that.
It before as like sort of Green Miley.
Yeah.
Without the extreme.
Without that extremity.
Visuals.
But yeah, a bit like, you know, just taking out of the darkness within someone. It could be emotional. It could be that they're going through a really bad time.
Grieving, maybe.
Yeah, it could be that. And it's just a case of sitting with them, talking them through. I tend to find physical touch helps me, but if they don't want that, then that's fine. It's not, you know, I don't insist on having to touch, but having a conduit. So whether it's holding hands and the side of the head or wherever it might be, if it is grieving, somewhere up here near their heart, talking to them, and I then go into, I don't meditate as in I don't go roll my eyes back and disappear into a state, but I will project white light, which is the positivity, and absorb any darkness that I can see within the person. And it is a bit of a transference, so I'll take that in. That might then upset me, but that's fine. I'll hold that in, and then I can then at a later time, not weeks, but later that day, I can then meditate and release the darkness out and bring my own white light back in. That's kind of that's how I do it. And it's not always practical. It never always works. It doesn't always work, but I've had fair success with it.
So has that changed your perception of? There's all this talk of, and people believe different things, but for example, like Vladimir Putin is full of evil. There's evil people in the world and there's good people in the world. And theoretically, does that mean that someone is full of sort of a dark energy that they hold on to? Or how do you perceive that?
I don't. I don't perceive it in that way. You know, it's not like, you know, Stalin and Hitler were, you know, these evil entities and all of this. I think from that point of view, people have their own ideas. If you want, you know, if we're going to talk about that, I would say Putin has his ideas, and his ideas is I do it this way and it will work. Now, most of the rest of the world is going, no, it ain't. But that doesn't make him evil. It just makes him misinformed. That's how I view it anyway. So I don't think anybody is, you're full of dark, you're full of light. You know, it's not like the Pope radiates white light and Putin radiates dark light. I don't think it works quite like that.
There's a lot of people who talk now about, like, for example, the Epstein files, and they talk about how theoretically, from a Christian perspective, these people were working through Satan or demonically possessed.
That's a little bit, you know.
So the energies that you've experienced working with are separate in your opinion, to you briefly spoke about like positive or malevolent spirits, and that's a different thing.
Yeah, I think that's completely different. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's like, I'm more, you're hurting in some way, let me help you. And that's as far as it goes, I don't delve into the spirituality quite that deeply. I'm very much, as I say, I'm very much right in the very top.
Yeah.
And it's just a case of, I'll help you out.
So then with the experiences you've had, say with, a frame shaking on the wall or different things you experienced in the paranormal experiences, why do you have any idea why some spirits might be malevolent as opposed to not? Why some might just be there? Why there might be an old man on a beach who doesn't seem like a very malevolent thing? I think any ghost with a dog,
yeah, exactly,
can't be a bad thing.
No, that's right. It's very much, everyone has their own opinion. My personal opinion, it's just they don't want to move on. There's something that's brought them back to that point. And again, I don't want to get into the God in heaven, devil in hell type of setup. It's because, again, everybody has their own views on the afterlife, if there is one. Some people don't believe there is. Other people think you go up to heaven and whatever else.
Yeah.
And I have my views, but that's down to me, But I think in that instance, the old man there's something about that place. And it may not have been a spirit. It may have just been like a, for want of a better word, a projection. Maybe it was a favourite place he went to with the dog. Maybe he, when his wife passed, if he had a wife, that was like, for whatever reason, he returned there quite regularly. And it's may not have even been a spirit. It may have just been a projection that I picked up on of where he'd always been, a bit like a negative. It's been burnt into the ether, if you want. If that's a good enough analogy.
So I guess, then I guess the question is, what every person has really positive moments in their life, really happy moments, whether you're getting married or having a kid or whatever it might be, something that's really meaningful to them. Why aren't there projections popping up everywhere of everyone who ever had a positive experience? If you've got any, obviously you don't know, but if you have any ideas on that, why aren't there just projections literally all over the place? Because there's been people on the planet for hundreds of thousands of years, arguably. Why aren't we seeing Neanderthal projections from back in the day of some positive, the invention of fire must have been quite positive, wherever that started, the very first time someone figured that out. Why aren't they there? Or do they maybe vanish over time? Or do you have any ideas on that?
No, not really. I mean, it could just be that, they're quite happy to go wherever they believe they're going. If you're a Viking, you go to Valhalla. If you're a Christian, you go to heaven. It could be that these people just want to hang on, if they are a spirit, they just want to hang on to that spot because it means that much to them. I don't think everybody ever has just one thing that is, that's my thing. That's what I was most happiest then. I think we all have a happy time when we're down here, and it could be 4 dozen, 5 dozen different things have happened over our life that we're really happy about. Well, where do you choose to be? You don't. But if for some reason there's one thing, and only one thing, and you really don't want to let go of that, then your spirit could hang on to that spot, that thing, that place, whatever it might be. But again, I'm talking personally, that's my view, and other people could say I'm talking rubbish and other people might agree, but that's my view on it.
So if you're happy to talk about it, what is your theory for what happens after we die? Because you say you've got a theory and you've experienced things that other people haven't experienced. Do you think we just pass on into nothingness, or there's maybe something you talk to that you don't really think it's Christianity or any other specific dogmatic religions, but clearly there's something else going on?
Yeah, what's called, I mean, I don't call myself pagan, but because I'm not one of the main four religions, therefore, anybody here who isn't one of the four main religions is technically a pagan because you don't believe in one of the four main religions. Therefore, you believe in something else, whether it's nothing or whether it's something else. So technically, I'm a pagan. And there is no right or wrong. I mean, I'm picking on Christianity because I know about it. And it's like, you know, with Christianity, God's up there, the devil's down there. You go one way or the other. That's the way I view it anyway. I might be wrong and I'll be told off that that's not as simple as that. But
that's the main idea.
That's the main idea. God's up there. You're good, you go up. You're bad, you go down.
Sure.
That's it.
And there's lots of people in between who believe different parts of that.
Exactly, yeah. And there's variations on that, but that's the core crux of it. Well, with a pagan, we could both be pagans, but you could believe something completely different to what I do. But that's the point, is that there is no set of rules for a pagan. So,
Makes it easy.
Yeah, exactly. And you can believe what you want. Now, if you're going to push me, then okay. So if you're bad, you're reincarnated. This is my personal view on it. And again, people can go, that's rubbish. If you're bad, you're reincarnated, you're made to live again. And you're made to work.
As a person?
As a person. As a person. You come back again. And you've got to go through life again. Because we all know life is difficult. It doesn't matter whether you're born with a silver spoon or whether you're born with nothing. It's still hard. You've still got to survive. But if you're good, I'm using these words generally. So if you're bad, you're reincarnated. If you're good, my personal view is that, yes, your spirit is released into the ether. You're absorbed into the universe, whether it's into trees and the earth or whether it's into space or wherever it might be, the ocean. Whatever you're happy and is your thing. Now, I've got my plans for when I go based on, and that is personal. So, that's the way I view it.
Do you believe in this idea that people, when they are reincarnated, there's a thing, if you go to a medium, if you can hear the duck, everyone, please ignore it. It's actually an Egyptian goose, and they're horrible birds, and they sort of pick on all the other birds, and they're really annoying, and they keep us up at night. But anyway, this idea of you go to a medium and they go, you were a pharaoh in a previous life, or not even necessarily like a career choice or something, but maybe you're brilliant at something in this life. You're a prodigy painter from the time you're 5. And people go, well, that's something maybe that you've carried over from a previous lifetime. Do you think about that at all?
Yes. Yes. And I know that I was a soldier during the Crimean War.
How do you know that?
I've been
incredibly specific.
I went to see a medium and I was regressed.
Okay,
meaning that you're put into, like, you meditate into a state where the other medium who is controlling will feed into you. I don't know exactly how she did it, but basically it brought forward a previous life.
So what did you experience?
The only experience I had was, and I didn't know this until afterwards because I investigated it and found out. But there was, during the Crimean War, there was I think it was a gas or something that was used against the British that made you seem like you had died. But in fact, you didn't die straight away. You were just in a state of, back then they couldn't
use in battle, like
in battle on the battlefield.
Right,
this is
right.
What I've read about, and in fact, I was buried alive because I wasn't dead, but everyone thought I was.
Okay, so you were
So I was a soldier,
a British
soldier.
Okay.
sent home or buried wherever it was. I don't know where I was, whether it was a home or wherever, but I got buried.
And this is what you experienced.
And this is what I experienced whilst I was under being, and I actually was laying on a couch, kicking and screaming. And I am actually claustrophobic. I've been claustrophobic for years prior to this. Again, didn't know about this before that, but I'm very claustrophobic. I can't have anything on my face. We went to a fun day somewhere, and you put a hood over your face, and they put you through a maze. And
I'm not
I couldn't
claustrophobic,
even.
but I hate masks.
Yeah, I had this sack over my face, and I lasted about 90 seconds, and it's like, no, can't do this. Mask came off, and I had to come out the line and wait for all my friends and family to go through it. And that again was prior to this. So I know I've always been claustrophobic, and the medium who regressed me says that's probably the reason you're claustrophobic is because you were buried alive as a soldier and you died. Now, again, I don't expect people to go, oh my God, yes. And they might go, that's me. That's what happened to me. If you want to believe me, that's entirely up to you. If you don't worry about it. I'm not going to start banging on about it and telling everybody that they're wrong because they don't believe me. I know what I believe. It's entirely up to you if you want to try and experience and see whether you had the same.
Well, what about the experience made you particularly feel that it was you being buried as opposed to theoretically being put back into
someone
that?
else.
Yeah, put into a, what is it? Why am I forgetting the word? When magicians sort of like take over people's minds. What's the word for that? When you
hypnotism. Hypnotism. Yeah.
Like, what makes you feel that you were not? I'm not saying that that's what she did. I'm not saying that I don't believe you. I'm just curious about what you felt during your experience that made you feel that this was you as opposed to being shown something.
I got the sensation of something over my face. So, yeah, maybe it was hypnotism. I don't know. I've never considered that before. I've only ever considered the fact that I felt a weight on my chest and legs, and I felt something over my face. So, to me, it happened. But yes, I mean, who's to say? It could have been. It could have been, and it could be completely, just a hypnotic state and suggestion. I mean, she never suggested anything. I told her what I felt afterwards. So from that point of view, hypnotism tends to be suggestion. It tends to be like telling you and then letting your imagination run away with what key words have been put in your head. But there was none of that.
It's an interesting idea that that's what you carried on, because it makes me think of like what people talk about with like spiders, right? We sort of inherently, there's some people who just pick up a spider. Neela's aunt is one of them. She'll just pick up a spider and it'll crawl around her hand and she'll throw it out the window. But generally people are terrified of them because theoretically at some point in human evolution, some relative got bitten by a spider and everyone learnt that that was a terrible thing and to stay away from spiders. And for no reason whatsoever, we've got, God, the duck is very loud. Apologies. It is very annoying. We've got little jumping spiders and they don't harm you. No. And they're kind of cute for the most part. They're just cute little guys and they don't hurt you. I still don't pick them up. Sometimes I'll sort of like take them by their thread and then I can like pop them outside.
Yeah.
But for the most part, especially if you see a spider, I call it a Spider-Man spider. It sort of looks like a deadly spider. We get a couple of them. And I don't think there's that many poisonous spiders in Britain anyway. But you do see spiders and you're like, ooh, not that one. And I wonder what that is. And potentially humans have learnt over several evolutions.
It could be that, or again, it could be, what was the big film from 20 years ago, 15 years ago, Arachnophobe or whatever it was called?
I haven't seen it.
No, neither have I, but I've seen enough of the adverts to know that if it's the size of a dinner plate and hairy, you don't want to go near it. It's probably the kindest, it will snuggle up next to you and watch the telly with you. But I'm not going to have that. Yeah. I'm the same with snakes. I can't do snakes of any kind. In fact, we've got cats, and one of the cats brought in this little, I can't remember what they're called now, but it was just a very small, almost like a worm.
Sure.
And it was just laying there on the floor, and it looked dead. And it's like, right, I'm going to be a man. I'm going to get rid of this.
Get the longest shovel I can find.
Yeah, I got a bit of paper to put under it and a glass to put over it to just get it out. And as soon as I put the paper under it, it moved its head, and that was it. It's like, Karen, you got to deal with that. I can't do
Don't
it.
go near it. Yeah.
And this thing's like 4 or 5 inches long. Reptile house, no chance. There is no chance at all.
Which I wonder if, like, maybe a great grandparent of yours or something,
Possibly, yeah.
had a bad experience with a snake.
Possibly, it could have been. Yeah, I mean, Indiana Jones when he drops into the. No,
Are you
I actually
Harrison
leave
Ford's
the room.
son by chance?
Well, there we go. I just leave the room. I cannot watch that bit, and anything that has a snake.
Oh, you can't even watch it.
No. It puts my hair up on the back of my neck, and I shiver.
Yeah.
As if one's crawled across me. I can't even look at one on the screen.
Snakes has never been for me. It's always been centipedes and millipedes. There's something about them I just don't like.
No.
Yeah, but the whole point I was talking. So there's
But yeah, I mean, going back to your point, then it could well be that that something happened in a few generations back and it's come through.
But then I wonder, with your experience as well, if there is this idea, and I'm sort of curious of what you did in this past life to, if you think there was maybe a more, a leaning of a percentage towards bad as opposed to good. You were 51% bad in a previous life, for example. I'm dumbing it down. I wonder what brought you back.
yeah, so do I. Yeah, I mean, and let's face it, Crimean War, that was the end of the 1800s. So I mean, I must have.
The British weren't known for come back. The best of things in the 1800s. So,
exactly. So obviously, I was part of something that, but what that was, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you what battalion I was in, where I was, or anything like that. That's as I say, that's as much as I know.
Yeah. There's a study that was done. I can't remember what the word for this is, and people will be screaming it at us when they're listening to this. But there was a study that was done where a scientist in the 20th century, he took rats and he put them in a barrel of water, basically, and there was 2 exits that they could leave. And rats always tend to go towards light and heat. There was medieval torture back in medieval times. What they would do is they would put like a cage on top of a person's body and like a fire on top, and then the rat would eat through people because it just get away from heat. So I guess maybe not heat, but light. They tend to go towards, because if you're underground, it's hard to see, so you go towards a light source. And what he did was he had 2 exits. One of them was lit and the other one was dark. And the rats would swim around trying to figure out how to get out of this thing. And they would go towards the lit exit, but they would be shocked every time because there was no actual exit basically there. They would just get shocked. And so he was training the rats to go towards the dark exit, and eventually they learnt. And it took what he did was he bred different generations of rats. So the first generation took something like 150 times to get through this thing. And slowly through the generations, the number would come down every generation on how many tries it took them. They'd get shocked 100 times, then 90 times, then 70 times, until I think the final generation sort of like capped at like something like 25 times, and they would just give up and just go, and they'd be like, the dark exit is the one. And so basically what he was proving is that you do learn through generations to figure things out more quickly than the previous generation. But I wonder if there's something to be said for you have claustrophobia because of a previous thing. So not only do you get it from previous generations, but you get it from previous lifetimes as well.
Yeah, possibly. And it could be the same with the snakes. It could be something happened in the past. As I say, there is an awful lot. There is hundreds more questions than there is answers.
I imagine you came away from it with more questions than answers.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, those answers aren't there. Without further investigation and research and everything else. So, at the end of the day, I chose, right, okay, I'll draw a line under this now. That's, that's all I want to know. I'm not that, it's not that I'm not that interested, but I'm not that keen on following it through because I think something like that will just take your life over. So it's like, okay, I get it.
I think it has to.
I will accept that and let's move on.
Did you ever, I'm fascinated by experiences people have on ayahuasca and iboga, if you know.
Don't know those. No.
Ayahuasca is sort of becoming a bit more of a trend now, but people will go to Amazonian countries and they have a shaman who sort of takes them through an experience, and it's an incredibly powerful psychedelic. And what you do is you tend to go for anywhere from like 3 to 14 days, and you can, if you pay more, you get more experience. experiences, basically. And what happens the first time is you take this quite powerful, it's like apparently really gross to drink. And Amazonian tribes used to do this as part of a ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
You drink this horrible concoction of two different things that they boil for hours, and it's fascinating as well because it's essentially DMT,
Right.
but it's combined with another plant which extends, because DMT, when you take it, is a very quick experience. It's a very intense experience, but this extends the duration of your trip to, I think, like 8 hours or something. You sit and you're just laid back, kind of almost in an unconscious state, and the shaman will watch over you, and they tend to like play drums or music to sort of guide you through this experience. And they're also kind of what you were talking about, is they are an expert in this realm.
Right.
So they can watch over you and make sure you're okay. And if you're not going through a good part of the experience, they can help lead you to a different part. But what people do is they go and they take this drug, and they tend to, for the first time they take it, not what they call breakthrough. So people will often vomit, shit themselves, and that's all. You just have to understand that's part of the purging experience.
Right.
It's like if you take something like acid or mushrooms, you feel really sick before you then have whatever your experience is. And it's almost like this is a gateway that you have to go through. Your body is going through some change to experience this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so people will go, and it's not a fun experience. It's not a party drug. People don't go to the Amazon they go because they want to find answers for something. And
Right.
people will tend to experience different things based on their religion or their experiences in life. So Christians will often go and they'll meet Jesus or etc. And people often experience floating out in space somewhere, meeting giant otherworldly, other universe creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And my sort of question for that is, a lot of people on these experiences, and then Iboga is a similar thing that people take in Gabon in Africa.
Right.
And people tend to come away from these experiences learning something about themselves and bettering themselves, because they learn something they never could have learned through any other version of that experience. And my question for you is, from what you've experienced, was it always people that you experienced? Was there ever any connection to anything that felt like it might not have been human or a different type of entity? Or
No, it was always some sort of human spirit, for want of a better word, if you want to use that word. I never sort of went down that kind of a route of, being in space and, the entities and what have you. It's always been a very grounded experience. Whether it was from 40 years ago, 50 years ago, or 200 years ago, but it's always been a human experience.
And did you ever look into, you spoke about it briefly, about like the literature involved, and I think we spoke about this before very briefly, about say black voodoo magic from Africa. And there are supposedly, from what I've been told, books out there that can, it's obviously a lot of fake ones, and I've read a bunch of them, and there's nice ones where you can do what is it, like, it's called like daily magic or something, where it's got something for each day of the calendar, and you can do nice things like clean up your home. But then there's books out there which are dangerous, supposedly. Have you ever looked into any of that range or sphere of trying to understand exactly, because there's people who have gone there before, who have gone sort of the full Monty and tried to figure out what's going on, and Crowley is famously one of them. Did you ever look into any of those things to try to understand?
Not to that extent, no. I mean, yes, I'm aware of all these the literatures. I mean, there's the Witch's Bible and the like. I've done things like smudging in the house, to try and bring in some good energy. To a certain extent, sort of feng shuiing, if you like, which is a similar sort of thing. But that's more bringing a positive vibe to the environment you're in. But as opposed to sort of reading things like the Witch's Bible and the likes of it, no, I haven't really gone that deep. As I say, I'm really only at the very top of it. And as much as it is of interest to me, my life's full up at the minute with lots of other things going on, and I wouldn't have the time to give it its full you something like this, you can't do it half-heartedly. It's, you can't open a door and leave it on ajar just while you go and do something else, because you just don't know what you're looking into. It's got to be something that you've got to concentrate on and give 100% to, really. And there's far too many other threads to my life at the moment.
So then why did you decide to step away from it?
Well, the paranormal company kind of finished for various reasons, but it finished. I then continued sort of in my own mind, carrying on the thoughts and my perceptions and everything, not necessarily as a company, but just myself. Still meditate fairly regularly, did it very regularly then. Went through a period where I wasn't working because I left the job for various reasons, but then the time at that time there weren't many jobs around. And being of a certain age, they'd rather have someone 20 years younger start than me. And then I started driving lorries for a living. Yeah. So it was a complete and total upheaval as far as my life was concerned. It was just a complete change. And it's like, it wasn't a conscious decision to leave everything behind, but it's just, it didn't gel anymore. Driving lorries, you've got to be more concentrated. You can't be switching off and zoning out for a little while.
Almost a polar opposite job.
Exactly. Yeah. So it kind of just got put on a back burner, which then got lower and lower, and then just went out. And as I say, I still occasionally meditate when life gets a bit too much, but that's just for personal reasons now. And as I say, people still say, when they're upset or there's a lot of going on in their life, and after they've talked to me, they feel a lot better for no reason. And again, people could turn around and say, well, that's just because they've talked it through. And yes, it could be, but I get the feeling that I've actually helped people by talking it through with them and helping them just to compartmentalize what's going on, deal with it a bit more. So it's not just a big mess on the table. It's all arranged and it's sorted. Right, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. And it's so yeah, that's the reason I've stepped away from it. It's not, as I say, it wasn't a conscious decision. It's just life moved on.
So when you got into the lorry driving and now you're doing something different than lorry driving, there was never a pull from or you'd sort of had enough of the sort of maybe slightly more intense versions of that.
Yeah. I mean, what I do now, I mean, we spoke on the radio, we do, with my wife, we do vintage stuff, buy and sell vintage stuff, but I'm also a qualified independent celebrant. So it's kind of a quarter step back towards that in doing the celebrancy. It's not a reflection on what I used to do. So it's not, all about the spirituality as such. But what I do with the celebrancy, it's still helping people. And especially when I do a funeral, because I am an independent celebrant, not a humanist celebrant, it's still slight religious overtones to it, but they're reflected by the family. So they'll actually tell me just how far they want to go. If they want to go full religious hymns and prayers and everything else, that's not me. That's a priest you want. But if you want something in between a full religious ceremony and a completely unreligious ceremony with no references at all to religion, then I kind of fall in between.
Do you ever get, or use the word visitations still? No. Do you think maybe it's because you've sort of stopped in that sphere that you've sort of maybe closed, as you say, closed the door?
Yeah. With the meditation, when I was doing it more regularly, the way I was not taught, again, it is an easy word to use just to describe it.
Sure.
You go through a door. You effectively imagine the doorway that's taking you through to your happy place, and that's where you go to meditate, to chill out yourself and maybe sort yourself out.
Is it a type of meditation that you do specifically, or is it something kind of separate from all the main types that you learnt?
It's completely separate. It's completely separate, and as I say, I do it when I want to, but I haven't done it for so long that, in fact, when I think about, I really need to meditate, when I chill out and imagine the door, it's all overgrown, it's all rusted up and everything else, because I haven't used it in such a long time. So that's why I don't tend to do it very often now, because it's harder to do it.
It's just like any skill.
Exactly, that's right. Once you stop using it,
especially with the sense.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just more difficult to meditate now. Again, being a little bit older, I tend to fall asleep rather than meditate.
Neela always meditated lying down. Which
that's
always,
right. Yeah,
always led to sleep.
Exactly. Yeah. So I tend to try and do it in a comfortable chair, but sitting up, or if you try and meditate laying down, it is difficult because you do tend to, you can go one way or the other, and it's easy to slide into sleep.
Do you find that any of that skill set has any place in what you do now? Is there any sort of magic or light energy to creating fun lamps for people? Is there anything that bleeds into what you do, or is it just an entirely separate thing?
It bleeds into the celebrancy side.
Okay.
Not so much. Well, I guess the buying of things, we don't buy things because everyone else is selling them. So if someone's saying, oh, these particular Hornsey pots are really popular at the minute, we don't rush out and buy Hornsey pots. Yeah. We only ever buy what we like. So if we'd like it in our house, we'll buy it to sell it. And I guess there's that kind of bleeds across slightly, but more into the celebrancy. It's more bringing positivity to a wedding, making it fun, making it full of light, and charging the place with white light, because it's a celebration of two people joining together. And even with a funeral, it's we don't do Victorian funerals where everybody's wailing and fainting from the grief and anguish anymore. Yes, it happens, and people do miss the person that's gone, and there is a lot of grief knocking around in a funeral. But what I try and do is, when I go into the funeral, I surround myself with the positivity and the white light, and that's what I try and project while I'm giving the service, giving the celebration of life, because that's how we look at it. It's a celebration of life. Yeah. So I push that across and try and put that into my words, into what I write. And I think, generally speaking, people will, when they're leaving, they're not laughing and joking, but they're not sobbing and can't speak because they're so grief-stricken. They tend to, that was lovely, thank you so much. And they get it.
There's something to be said for that as well, because I've certainly been to weddings and definitely funerals where the celebrant kind of just came in and did what was on the paper.
Yeah.
I famously tell the story from my wedding. We got these fun rings from we didn't have the money, and it's not really our style either to buy, £2,000 wedding rings. So we got these for like 150 quid from a seller on Etsy, and it was a Ukrainian seller. So we made ourselves feel good that we were buying something from a Ukrainian during the war. And we got married fairly young, and the celebrant came in and he had his binder with all of his laminated sheets, and he literally just read from them. And at one point he went off script. He thought he'd tell a joke or just like try to share a moment with everyone. Yeah. And he was clearly trying to connect it to something that young people like nowadays. And we hadn't even really, Neela met him beforehand just to meet him and go through all the logistical things. Yeah. But he never sat down with us and spoke with us about who we were, or never tried to personalize it in any way, because it was a non-religious ceremony. And so he referenced what he thought he was referencing, like Harry Potter. And he essentially held up my ring, I want to say. And he was like, oh, there's such a unique ring, and sort of it almost looks like it could be something out of a fairy story or something. and he said something along the lines of the one ring to rule them all.
Right. Okay.
But said something about Harry Potter. So in his mind, he was combining Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. And then referenced the one ring of evil to rule them all, which had nothing to do with, other than it was a ring, had nothing to do with our ceremony.
No.
And the whole room, of which there was only 6 people, went, fucking what? And he went, and then went back to his binder and and we were like, okay, well, thanks for that. You kind of made that horrible and awkward. And then went back to your script, and then sort of almost treated us as if he'd done that personal experience afterwards, and like had a shared special moment with us. And it was a perfectly nice ceremony, but we were like, all right, well, thanks for doing your job. I guess we'll never see you again. This was great. Cheers. So there is something to be said for involving that energy. Yeah.
I mean, I've done, strangely, again, I seem to attract witches and, people like that as
actually,
for weddings.
Because I was in that sphere. It's the red car thing, is you do just attract.
That's right. And I don't know whether it's, everybody says it's the facial hair. It gives off the,
if people are just listening to this podcast, they need to look at the facial hair. It's quite brilliant.
It's so it's people, they kind of think, oh yeah, one wedding I did, I was actually referred to in the planning as the wizard. So, wizard will arrive at so-and-so, because everybody got a name and they called me the wizard.
Great.
But I've kind of gone off where I was going with this. But anyway.
I was just thinking that your hat is very Dumbledore as well.
That's it, yeah. But I tend to attract those kind of people to the weddings. But I know what I was going to say. But I don't just rock up and say, there's my invoice, that's how much it's going to be. What's your names?
AI adjusted poem.
And here's the script. I spend minimum of an hour talking to people, talking to the couple. They've already had in advance like a prompt questionnaire, if you like, just to let them know what we're going to be talking about in their love story, which is the bulk of the ceremony. So do an introduction, do a love story. We tell everybody how they met, what happened, how they fell in love, what annoys them about each other, what they love about each other, all of those things, just things to get a smile and a laugh. Then we go into the vows. Now, the vows are all written specifically for the people. They're not standard vows. And, if I had one where he was heavily into Lord of the Rings. So I investigated Lord of the Rings, and I had a look, and I found that there was 2 or 3 weddings during Lord of the Rings. So pulled out some of the vows that the characters said, found out what was more relevant to him than the other, and that they were his vows to her. She was a witch, so we wrote some vows between the 2 of us. And so everything is very bespoke, everything is very specific, and nothing is then used next time. I mean, if I can skip to funerals, it's the same with that. You can do your opening lines and your closing lines, and they could be identical for every funeral you do.
Yeah, and a lot of people do that.
And and a lot of not so good celebrants will do that. And the only difference between the 2 is the eulogy in the middle. But with me, every single ceremony, whether I'm doing a funeral or a wedding, is bespoke to those people. And, I will always bring the light into that. And it'll always be fun, and it'll always be, there'll be smiles whether I'm doing a funeral or a wedding. But I would never have, if you're going to have a script, you might just as well have a registrar do it.
So when you arrive and you're talking about pulling in the white light to whatever ceremony it is, I imagine that comes from the energy and the people from the space, as opposed to something that you're just pulling out of yourself.
Yeah, it's
sort of channeling
the positivity that's in there, and that's obviously more difficult at a funeral because people are grieving of various degrees, depending on whether they were a friend or whether they were a relation, or even down to the widow or widower, and children. But it's all a matter of, I always speak to them beforehand. I always get there early, talk to them beforehand, shake their hands, tell them how it's all, they've already seen the service, they know what's going to be said, kind of just put them at their ease a little bit. And again, and that's when you're sort of like channeling the white, just so that they know that they're in safe hands with me and that it's all going to go well. You know, and as bad as the situation is for them, it's going to be a great send-off. And with the wedding, it's the other way. You know, it's just there's already white light bouncing around. Everyone's really up for it and everything else. And it's just a matter of combining my own energy with that.
Yeah, I went away and thought about you talking about the white and the dark light after our little radio chat. And it was fascinating because I sort of remembered something that I used to do, which was I used to be, I still deal with it from time to time, but when I was growing up, I was quite an anxiety-ridden person. And I used to have this thing that I would do where I would almost think of expelling almost like a dark energy, almost like a dark smoke or something is the way I thought of it. And I thought of almost breathing in, it wasn't even white light necessarily, just positive energy and sort of exhaling whatever that was. And it almost like, even though you're exhaling through your nose or your mouth, it was almost like it came out of my back. And I sort of pushed something good in to expel something out. And I was like, oh, it was interesting. I sort of forgot that I used to do that. And it sort of connected to what you thought. And I don't know if I'm a spiritual person or healer or anything like that, but it was just an interest because it was the same thing.
Yeah. It sounds like it's certainly a spiritual way of doing things. I mean, we tend to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. So you're actually blowing away the darkness and inhaling the white light. You know, so again, when I'm meditating, that's the best way to do it, is you breathe in through your nose and then out through the mouth. And that is actually a very calming way of breathing, even if you're not looking to meditate. If you're feeling a little bit jittery, just... And you find people will do that. If they're feeling a bit jittery, they'll automatically just breathe out through their mouth. And that's, you know, in through your nose, out through your mouth, 3 or 4 times, and you'll be surprised just how calm you can get.
Yeah, I got a little, I'll call it a breath trainer, a breathing trainer. And even just doing that, I find on days when I'm tired or anxiety ridden, just doing, it's a little like thing you put in your mouth and you can adjust this thing. So it's almost recreating like a different altitude, basically.
Right.
So you can tighten it and it's harder to breathe. And even just doing 20 breaths through that is just a perfect way to sort of, there's so much to be said about the breath and how people don't breathe. And I find that we, our experiences with acting, so a lot about physicality and a lot about breath. And it's very similar to people who go into an office space to help people with anxiety or help people with performance or speaking on a stage. There's so much to be said for the connection between what you learn in, say, an acting environment and controlling your breath and controlling your body that people then use to not only, you know, speak on a stage at a conference, but to just better themselves in everyday life.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating connection.
It is, yeah. And it's all about taking in the oxygen and, you know, filling your blood with red blood cells. I mean, you can, you know, when people get agitated, they tend to breathe like this, and you know, and they're breathing very quickly, and so the breath in and is out again, and it doesn't get a chance. So yeah, I mean, it's the same when I'm giving a speech or if I'm doing a wedding or a funeral or whatever. People come in, they sit down, they're looking at you. The first thing I do is I look around the room, and then you speak, and just that one breath slows your heart slightly. It fills you full of oxygen, positivity, if you want, and it just sets you going. Because if you don't do that and you just take a quick breath in and out, you've got nothing here to then speak. You've then got to take another breath to be able to carry on speaking. It's a bit like singing, I guess. You know, you've got to breathe properly. You've got to
breathe at the right points.
At the right points during the song. Otherwise you get to this point and you run out of breath and you have to...
Or even if you breathe throughout, but you breathe at the wrong points, it's strange.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all a matter of breathing correctly, calming yourself.
Yeah. How did you learn that? There must have been some point before, because you said you sort of learnt because of that, I assume, woman medium, that you had that sort of, there was something else connected to it, something spiritual, but you must have learnt about yourself at one point in time, because I feel like that's quite different from what you said about the man you saw on the beach, that you had that sort of calm presence, because I feel like there are people who have that, and there's something more to it than just necessarily they smoked weed a bunch when they were a teenager, so they tend to be a calmer person.
I think when I was a kid,
Mm.
I was quite a bit bigger than I am now.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not slim by any means, but I was certainly bigger than I am now.
Sure.
And I'm not saying I was the fat kid that was always picked on. That's not quite right. But there was always the more popular kids, and you got into arguments.
Mm.
So, you got a playground scrap coming along. I had two choices. I either had to go for it and maybe have my face punched a few times and knocked to the ground and everything else, or I talk my way out of it.
How'd you do that?
And it's all a case of just, well, you have to look at the situation and then make a decision as to how you're going to deal with it. I mean, yes, there's been instances where it's like, look at that, and run away. You had to. But I mean, when I was younger, it was I would say about 80% of the time, I was always talking to someone about it, and it's like, well, okay, so you got this problem or whatever, so-and-so happened, and it's like, okay, well, let's talk, and it was almost like talking out of it. And I didn't know I was doing it, but that's what I used to do. And I guess that was probably the start of it, because I just didn't want a fight. I didn't want to be punched and have to punch back. It happened
you never
once.
hear about kids doing that. It's like, think about what you're doing. You don't actually want to do.
I know.
I didn't
and
have
it's
the
like,
intelligence as a kid to handle things that way.
I had one fight at school that I can remember. And the only thing I remember about it was standing outside the headmaster's office waiting to go in and see him because we'd had this fight. And we went in, and the headmaster just sat behind his desk, looked at the pair of us, and he would just tore us off a strip. And I mean, and I was it was primary school, so I was pre-11. Probably 9 or 10.
Do you remember what it was about?
Yeah. I wasn't very good at sports, like I said already about basketball. And I was in goal at lunchtime. We were playing football and I drop kicked the ball up and kicked it wonky. So it didn't go there, it went over there and hit a guy on the back of the head. Right. Who happened to be the kid of the year, right. The one that you didn't.
You did that intentionally.
And he thought I'd done it on purpose, and he just came flying at me, and thankfully,
just the fact that you were in goal means that you're not the most adept.
Exactly. That's why I was in goal.
The perfect aim.
Yeah, and that's why I was in goal, because I was rubbish at running around and scoring goals. So that's why I was there. Big, like I say, big chap. And I couldn't talk myself out of it. He just wasn't having it.
I hit you in the head, but just think about what you're doing.
Yeah, and that wasn't happening. So we exchanged a few blows. I mean, I got a couple of blows on him, but and of course the teachers dragged us off each other and straight to the headmaster's office for a fighting. And like I say, it's like, he made us shake hands and apologise to each other, which we did. And after that, we had a bit of a respect for each other. He got it, and he understood what had happened. And after that, we got on all right for the next year or so we were together. But my point was, I think after that was, I don't want to go through that again. And it's not me being a chicken, if you want to call it that, or being... No, but it's just like, I don't want to have to go through that and fight for myself. I will if I have to. If someone was to attack Karen, I'd be in there and protect her. But when it comes to me, it's like, well, why don't we just talk it out?
Yeah, it's just not the best way to do things. It's what I always say. Like, I'm never there when someone is rude, for example, to Neela. There was a really extreme case, actually. She was up in Scotland. This was a couple of years ago with a friend of ours. And our friend is famous for smoking weed and playing music loudly. And she was doing this one night, and Neela was round. She was up there for like a weekend, and there was a person who lived next to our friend. And this person was an aggressive person. I think they were actually a neo-Nazi, of all things, because she once had an argument with him standing outside his flat, and he'd opened the door, and she'd clocked, he's shaved head, sort of skinhead style, but she looked into his flat on the ground where she was arguing with him about whatever, and realised that he'd spray painted a swastika into his floor. I mean, for all I know, it could have been someone else who lived there before him, but I imagine it was, from what she said about everything about this man, it was clearly this guy. And she was playing music loudly one night, and then he came and like banged on the door, and in a way that wasn't, I'm going to argue. It was like, I'm going to beat you up because I'm sick of this behavior. And I heard about it, and it's whenever I hear about someone being mean to or horrible in that way to, particularly a friend of mine who's small and female, could be my sister's. There's something about it that makes me just see red.
Yeah.
And I'm never there for these things.
No.
But I was talking about this the other day, and I think if something like that were to occur, it's not something in my nature. It's not something that I usually do where I become the aggressive male. Usually what I do is I de-escalate by trying to tell a joke or connect to the person. And so as much as I would or wouldn't, I don't know which one it is, would like to think, I'll say, that I would be the man in that situation and knock him out in a single punch. I think I would probably approach it quite differently from how my male fascination runs. And there's something nice about that. There's something that's good about going, okay, actually, I wouldn't. As much as I get angry in that particular instance, I tend to de-escalate and calm. So it's interesting that came from not a place of, say, like, I mean, maybe it did from a parent of yours, but it seems to have come from a place of self-defense.
And I think there's a part of me is thinking, I could quite easily break your jaw with a punch, but then as soon as you hit the ground, I'd be like, oh shit, are you all right? And that's, again, is a big part of me. It's like, I could lay someone out, but then I'd be worried that, that I'd really hurt them. And that is more of an overwhelming feeling than the feeling of the red mist, as you say, and wanting to do it. It's almost like, it's almost like letting them know I could do it, but let's just talk this out.
And it's, violence breeds violence as well.
Exactly,
so like, what are you going to do to that person? Then when they get angry with someone in their life, it carries on. And this is my theory about the world as well, is something so small. It really feels like something out of Lord of the Rings or something. It's just this idea that someone somewhere, and you see it, acted out in television and films all the time, where there was someone who just had a bad intention, and the smallest of bad intentions or the smallest of like pain that you've had in your life turns into something that kind of takes over the whole world. Like people joke that Vladimir Putin might have a tiny penis or he wasn't loved enough as a kid, but I imagine it was genuinely something as small as that led him to believe, I need to dominate the world in the way that I see it. And he's just, a particular example, but or Hitler is a great example as well. He's someone who was not particularly known for his muscles, right? Someone quite small, someone who was bullied a lot when he was a kid. And just because enough people were rude to him when he was smaller, maybe someone who looked particularly Jewish was rude to him one day, or maybe someone told him that Jewish people were bad, and it just, something as small as that
something
can
festered.
bleed into, and it really is as simple as that. Every single time, everyone who's bad at any point in their life, just a tiny little thing can transform into something that literally destroys the world. So I think it goes the opposite way as well. Just that tiny, not beating someone up and going, I could do this because you've wronged me, but handling it in a better way might just change the course. It's the butterfly effect. It might just change the course of history, for all you know.
Exactly. I mean, any one of us could become a dictator or the next, Gangs of London leader and all of this business, but why would you want to? And my view, again, it's personal view, but my view is all these people that you see on the TV that are, going and kicking the hell out of people, they're doing it because maybe their mates did it or their parents did it or their uncle did it, and they're doing it because they've been brought up seeing it, and that's why they're doing it. Not because, and I've seen it in the past. People go, why did you do that? Well, I don't know. And they don't know. They don't know why they're doing these things. It's because all around them it's happening, so they think that's what I've got to do. And it's a very strong character for someone to go, hang on a minute, why am I doing this? I know you're doing it and you must have your reasons, but what are my reasons for doing it? And I think that's really what people need to do. They need to step back and just take a minute. Why am I doing what I'm doing? is it because I'm evil, or is it because I'm believing things that people are telling me?
Yeah, I grew up in the wrong environment, or
Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be, like I say, it's just because my dad did it, or my uncle did it, or my mum did it, so I must do it. And bit of peer pressure, well, off you go. I mean, it's all in the films, isn't it? Even films like Goodfellas, which is it's a great film, but it's like, hey, he got arrested, he's popped his cherry, he's been arrested, he's now a man, and it's like, no, didn't need to be arrested to be a man.
Yeah.
But it's how it was then, and it's unfortunately how it is now.
So if that calming energy that you have came from a place of self-defense, that's not the most positive of places for it to come from necessarily. So how did you then convert that, or find a different way of using it? Or did it just sort of come about naturally?
It just came about naturally, and I don't think it matters where it comes from.
No.
It's whether, if it came from self-defense, or if it came from a conscious effort or a conscious decision to do it. I don't think it really matters. At the end of the day, I made that choice. Like I say, I mean, I'm big enough and ugly enough to have turned into a bit of a hooligan, and I could have done.
You got a beautiful tash. I don't know about that.
But who knows where I would be now if I decided to actually lay into Nick back at school, and I could have hurt him.
Yeah. Or you could have even used that for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It's like a con man arguably uses charm
Exactly,
for the wrong purposes.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a lot of reasons or a lot of ways I could use this. And this is the way I choose to do it, by doing, it's going to sound really cheesy, by doing good. But do you know what I mean? It's like, doing the weddings, doing the funerals, whatever it is, and using my positivity and using the way I do things to make people happy. That's all I want to do, is make people happy. I don't want people upset with me. I don't want people upset with life. We used to go out after work, and it's like, as much as I'd had 16 pints like everybody else did, I was always the last one to leave because I wanted to make sure everybody got in their cabs. And if you didn't have the cab fare, well, here, take my last $5. You get home, I'll walk. And again, I'm not doing this for people to go, oh, good on you. You're really. It's just, it's me, and it's the way I am, and it's how I've always been. If you're cold, you can have my coat. End of story. Whether I'm cold or not, if you're suffering, what can I do to help you? If that means giving you my last $5 because you've got to get back from West Croydon to Thornton Heath, and I can walk back to South Croydon, and it's a safer journey for me to walk than it is for you to walk, take my $5, take the bus, take the cab back, and I'll walk home.
That's what they say about leaders, isn't it? That the typical idea of a leader is someone who is leading the pack, but actually a real leader is the person at the very back who's making sure that everyone is safe. Yeah. I was always, it's funny that you mentioned the drinking, because I was always quite good at holding my own if I was intoxicated in various forms. I was always I prided myself on that I was quite good at handling a situation quite calmly for the most part, no matter how far down the rabbit hole I was. There was a fun night I was in France. It was the Avignon Festival, if you know.
I've heard of it, yeah. I've not been, but...
Edinburgh is the biggest theatre festival in the world. Avignon is the second biggest, but
right.
Arguably it's more international. I don't think there's as many acts, but you go there and everything is in a different language, and everyone comes from all over Europe because it's a lot closer.
Yeah.
And we were meant to be seeing a play, and we stood outside because it was quite it was like a puppetry thing, and it was kind of dark and weird and witchy and evil. And so we were like, right, let's just get fucked before we go in. So we sat around the corner just downing as many things as we could, and we're like, right, let's go. And we went up to buy the tickets, and it turned out that play wasn't playing that night. And the big thing about the Avignon Festival is you get different performances sort of parading around through this medieval town. It's all like in a big walled, moated castle, basically. It's a city that's moated in. It's weird. It's labyrinthine. It's really fun. And we'd seen these people parading around with like puppets and costumes and someone on stilts. And we're like, that looks amazing. And then we went up and they're like, this isn't playing tonight. It's like a children's puppet thing. And we were like, fuck. And the two people I was with, it was a friend of mine and his partner, they were like, what do we do? And they were just spiraling because at this point everything had started to hit us. And I was like, right, we're going to march across town and see another thing that we were potentially interested in going to. And I don't know how we made it. It must have been like, it almost felt like a Scooby-Doo bit where like you go in one door and then come out another that's right next to it. And we sort of like just found our way around this town, and we arrived at this place in time, and I was like, yes. And I was like ringing up the theatre, and I was doing all these things, and I was like sort of, I don't know, I like holding my own in that case. And we arrive, and they're like, oh, the play hasn't started yet. And we were like, this is amazing. And it was a different show that was about two men, and it was like an acrobatic thing. It was like very movement heavy. And we're like, this is going to be brilliant. And we go in and we sit down, and there's an old woman, like a woman who's pretending to be an old woman in a chair. And there was all these lamps, and she gets up and she starts hobbling across the stage and speaking in French. And we get about 20 minutes in, and I sort of clock eyes with the guy next to me, and we're like, I don't think this is the thing that we were meant to see. And we flip over because they still gave you physical tickets then. We flip it over, and it's a completely different show. And we just burst out laughing. And his partner is, giggling because she's fucked. And she doesn't realize we're laughing because we went into the wrong show. We're all just enjoying this thing that we came to see. It ended up being a brilliant show, and we're like, that was actually really good, and we never would have seen that. And then we told her afterwards, we were like, that wasn't what we were meant to see. But it was things like that, just like being able to handle when everyone's just spiraling, and they're like, why don't we just go to the pub because we literally can't walk. And I'm like, no, we have to get to this thing, and I can sort of flip into that mode. And
that's it.
Switch it on and off as I need.
And I'm very similar to that. I was always bigger than everybody else at school, so I was always the one that everybody turned to if it was about to kick off. It was like you deal with it. You deal with it. You're the 18-year-old. No, I'm only 15. But because I've
just got stubble.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just that little bit bigger than everyone else. That it was like I got pushed to the front, and so it was almost a case of having to deal with it and having to. 15. I've had my 4 pints of cider, so I'm off my face a little bit. But no, I shall speak properly and deal with the situation. And
speak to the police very nicely.
Nicely, that's right. Yes, no, they're fine. I'll make sure they get home. Will you make sure that I will?
You have a good night, officer.
You have a good night. Yeah, I'll see you. Yeah, thanks very much, officer. I'll deal with them. Get round the corner.
Great.
But
great. Okay, I want to round it off by you spoke a little bit about these paranormal experiences. What would you recommend that people, if they're interested in this sort of a thing, something like I forget what it's called with the sage? I used to do that as well.
Saging a room or a building. It's kind of like bringing positive energy in. I would go to an emporium that would help you to tell you exactly how to do it. It's not an easy thing to say, because there are certain incantations that you can do depending on what issues you've got in the house. So, but if you feel that you're, there's a bit of negativity knocking around for some reason or other, the best thing to do is to speak to someone, explain the situation, and they will then direct you in the right direction.
Sure.
There are plenty of these around.
Yeah, and if they want to, for example, experience one of these paranormal things but do it in a safe way, because as you say, I imagine there's fakes, there's real ones, and then there's real ones who maybe haven't set up enough of protection for you to defend yourself. And like I think we mentioned it before, it's like playing with fire, but you don't know what the fire is.
Exactly, and it's possible, you could take away a negative energy with you, but I mean the best thing again to do is just go online, have a look, try and find some of the bigger companies. Unfortunately, the bigger companies that are more established tend to charge more. Sure. But, if you've got one that's, come to this ghost hunt, it's a $5, maybe not.
It's not your average Sherlock Holmes ghost walk through London.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, those are fine.
Those are cheap either.
No, they're not. No. But, those are fine if you want ghost stories. But if you want to experience something, do some investigation of the sites. So when you find a company and they say, oh, well, we're doing ghost hunts at these 3 places, maybe investigate the actual locations and see what they're saying themselves about it or what other people are saying about them. And just find one that's of a decent size group. Usually you don't want there to be like 40, 50 people there, but maybe 15, 20. you know, and if you are still feeling a little bit concerned, contact the medium concerned or the company that's running it and just say, look, I've never been to one before. What can I expect? You know, and if they say, well, you'll have this happen to you and that happen to you and that happen to you, then the chances are, no, that's probably not the best thing, because no one can guarantee it. No one can guarantee everything is going to happen to you. Yes, you could have a really active evening, you could have a really quiet evening, and that's what you have to bear in mind as well. You might book it and go and come away having not really experienced very much at all. But, you know, it is what it is, and it could be the most haunted place in the country, but you could go and spend 4 hours there and find that, you know, one door shuts and that's about all you get, type of thing, you know. So you can't guarantee it, but yeah, I mean, phone the companies up and just chat with them.
Sure. And where can people find you for your different services? We barely spoke about the vintage, but that is the main thing you're doing now.
It is.
Or if they want to have you as a celebrant,
okay,
where can they find you online?
If they want me as a celebrant, I am online at Gary M Lockyer. Don't Google Gary Lockyer, because he's the centre forward for a football club in Ashford.
And as we know, football's not your skill set.
And football's not my skill set. So it's Gary M Lockyer. You can find my website there. And for the vintage stuff, it's Whitechapels of Kent.
Great.
So there's websites and there's also Instagram accounts.
Cool. Amazing. This has been really nice. We sort of got off track in a really exciting way.
Yeah, we did. We went all over the place. But no, it's been great.
Yeah. Thank you, mate.
No, thank you.